Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good evening, assalamu alaikum, and welcome to Sports Extra. I'm your host Ahmed Nawaz with the latest roundup of sports today. Pakistan versus Australia at Stumps. Australia 3 wickets down, but they'll feel they've gotten a decent score. Otherwise, if you look at Pakistan, they won the toss and opted to bowl first, considering that there were overcast conditions at the MCG, and a lot of these, I think, bowlers would be pretty sure that that's what they wanted to do first. So I think it was a brave decision. It could have gone either way, but Pakistan clearly had the better of the Australian batters. We had our chances, we of course let them go, but that I think was made amends for, although Abdullah Shafiq dropped a sitter with David Warner initially, with Shaheen Shah Afridi, who was bowling brilliantly. And I must say that I am really impressed with Mir Hamza. I think that ability to not just take the ball away from the left-handers, but the one he was getting to jab back in with that in-swinger to Khwaja and Warner especially was almost unplayable. But credit to the Australians, still they were able to negotiate. But I think the prize wicket of Steve Smith right before Stumps is something that Pakistan would have loved, and that's what they did. So Amir Jamal, Hassan Ali and Salman Ali Agha, all three of them getting amongst the wickets, and Pakistan of course going with the traditional playing 11 that we did believe was going to be there, and Sajid Khan was left out. So we'll talk all about that in detail, and what Pakistan should be looking for now in day 2. I think that first session again is going to be very important, because if you're able to get Labuschagne and head out, then you've got a real chance to penetrate into that Australian batting lineup, and then of course when you get a chance to bat as well. So we'll talk all about that in detail. Time now to introduce the guest. Joining us in studios first of all is cricket expert and analyst Saad bin Khalid. Assalamu alaikum, Saad, how are you?
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for
having me. And we've also been joined by Taha Mohiuddin Khan, who is a cricket expert as well. Assalamu alaikum, Taha, how are you?
Walaikum assalam, very well, thank you.
Great to have you as well. Now of course, like I said, that we've got to continue this discussion, but Saad, first of all, what did you make of the toss is definitely going to be a question on the table, and for Taha as well. So I'll just let them know what we're going to be talking about. But before that, let's just take a brief look at the highlights that we've got of Stumps at day 1, and then we come back.
Australia reached 187 on 3 at Stumps on the opening day of the second test match against Pakistan at the Melbourne Cricket Ground. Pakistan captain Shan Masood won the toss and opted to bowl as the visitors tried to level the series. Pakistan made 3 changes. Wicketkeeper Sarfaraz Ahmed and Fahim Ashraf has been dropped as Mohammad Rizwan, Hassan Ali and Mir Hamza returned to the side. Earlier, Usman Khawaja and David Warner opening partnership put Australia in a strong position against Pakistan. Warner on 2 offered a simple chance to first slip off the bowling of Shaheen Shah Afridi in the 3rd over. Usman Khawaja made 42, David Warner scored 38, while Steve Smith made 26 runs. For Pakistan, Agha Salman, Hassan Ali and Amir Jamal bagged 1 wicket each. The match was interrupted due to rain during the second session on the first day. For Australia, Marnus Labuschagne on 44 and Travis Head on 9 unbeaten at the crease.
Well, there you have it, that highlight package by Sabah details the happenings up till Stumps on day 1. Although rain did play a spoiled sport, I must say, whether you want to call it rain, whether you want to call it a drizzle, whether you want to call it bad light, you can call anything, but a couple of overs were lost in the day, and I think they could have gone either way. I won't say it would have gone Pakistan's way, but it could have gone either way. And I think, like I said, that prize wicket of Steve Smith before Stumps was really something that Pakistan would have wanted. Saad, first of all, the decision at the toss, and how do you analyze Pakistan's performance on day 1?
Well, I think this decision which actually Shan Masood made, this is probably, I think I should say that even before the day of the match, it has been drizzling, the overcast conditions. That was probably the reason why Shan Masood opted to bowl first, because it obviously, considering the conditions, this would have given the bowlers the edge that they actually needed. Plus, coming from a very bad loss from the first test, I think bowling first would have given Pakistan a better edge to come back into the game and back their players that yes, they can do it, and that is what we saw actually. The spirit in the Pakistani players was very, very positive, and they feel motivated. The body language that they had, it was quite positive, the way they were bowling in the first day.
Well, definitely. I think we did see a lot of swing, a lot of movement off the wicket in the air as well. So that is always a great sign for Pakistani bowlers, especially, like I said, I am truly impressed with Mir Hamza. And it really shows you that a guy who's taken more than 400 first-class wickets and was not given enough games, and you can clearly see that the skill level is there, but for how long? Because that prime has definitely, in the stage of passing. But Taha Mohyuddin Khan, how do you see day one's proceedings between Pakistan and Australia?
Well, the scorecard on which Australia ended on the day one, Pakistan would not have desired such kind of a scorecard, because especially of the chances that Pakistan had in the initial overs, and as you mentioned that Abdullah dropped a sitter with, I believe that David Warner has some magical luck with Pakistan. As you remember in the World Cup, we dropped his chance and he scored a big century. So today as well we dropped a sitter, but thanks to Salman Ali Agha that we ended the 90-run opening partnership between the two openers. A lot was said about the Boxing Day Test match, that what will be the Pakistan's best combination, especially with the injuries creeping in of Khurram Shahzad and Numan Ali, who is unfortunately out of the Test series. So given the overcast conditions, Pakistan decided to bowl first, and it was a brave decision. But I believe in the initial session, yes, we took 2 wickets before lunch, but initially Pakistani pacers were not able to handle onto that swing. There were some wayward deliveries. Yes, Mir Hamza was bowling really well, but I was listening to the post-day analysis. Our bowlers were somewhat bowling short in the initial overs, but eventually Hassan Ali started bowling some good channels, and due to his consistent line and lengths, he got the wicket of Usman Khwaja.
I realize you're talking about wayward bowling. I saw Travis Head getting hit on the shoulder. That was scary. But I understand your argument, Taha, and I'm going to come back to that, because as the commentator said, and as the day moved on towards the post-match analysis, post-day analysis, they were of the opinion that Pakistan could have been a touch more fuller in their lengths. But I'm of a different opinion. I think if they were a touch more fuller, batsmen would have negotiated it because of the lack of pace, because 100, 135 is something negotiable at that fuller length delivery. Yeah, if you're bowling, I think 145 or 150s with the ball to come back or go away, then it might make a difference. So I think we'll discuss that in detail. Also joining us on Sports Extra now is a sports expert, Malik Usman. Assalamu alaikum. How are you, sir?
Walaikum assalam, I'm doing well.
Sir, what would you like to highlight about day one's proceedings? Starting from the toss, Pakistan saw that they can extract some moisture from the wicket and the overcast conditions, and then Pakistan's performance so far, getting 3 wickets, and I think the prized wicket of Steve Smith right before Stumps.
I thought they would be happy with the proceedings that have been going, but I thought Pakistan missed a trick here. The ball was seaming and swinging. The conditions were there to pick up wickets. They actually got an early chance as well, but once again, Warner is always having luck against Pakistan, and then he goes big, but today he threw away his wicket, and that was a good omen for Pakistan. But at 187 for 3, I think it's slightly advantage for the Australians, I would say, because these conditions, Pakistan should have picked a couple of more wickets and gone into the lower order or the tail itself. But 187 for 3 with Labuschagne doing well, and Travis Head very fresh with his legs, and tomorrow in a new day, I think things could be slightly different. Had they got a couple of more wickets, I think Pakistan would have started with an advantage. But right now, I think it's pretty even Stevens, but if it could be a 60-40 for Australia with the day ending.
Well, Usman, Pakistan's approach so far, I think, like I said, that we saw the ball was moving a bit as well. They looked far more better as far as their body language is concerned. That dropped catch was definitely painful. But then again, did you also feel that the team looked far more composed this time around in the first Test match?
Yeah, that I would agree. I think the body language was pretty good, and winning the toss did no harm to the Pakistan's chances and their confidence. But what I thought was their execution was slightly poor. They just couldn't control the swing of the ball, because once the ball is seaming and swinging, one important element is you have to have control on the seam and swing. And you have seen that the bowlers did ball wayward. Now, many of the byes went through down the leg side, and a couple of lengths were wrong, and that the ball just went up above the keeper as well. But all in all, I think it was a good performance. They kept it very tight, especially after the first break. They were very, very consistent, and as the day progressed, I thought the bowling became better and better. But what could have been had they started it the way they ended it, I think Pakistan would have been much more happier. I don't mind with the score the day ended. I think it is pretty even Stevens. If the conditions are slightly similar to what it was today, I think Pakistan would fancy the chances of skittling out Australia under 300, and they have to skittle out Australia under a lower score so that they can have a match out of it.
Well, Saad, the interesting factor is that you can't just believe that you got Smith, and even if you get Labuschagne tomorrow in the first session, then you've got a real chance, because the thing with Australia is that they still have the luxury of Mitchell Marsh, who was the player of the match in the first Test match, a phenomenal player for Australia in Test cricket, and he can really do the damage, not just with the aggressive style of batting, but also consuming deliveries. Still have Alex Carey, even Pat Cummins, Mitchell Starc, everybody can bat in this Australian side. So our bowlers have really got their work cut out for tomorrow.
Absolutely, I'll have to agree, and there's a huge task up ahead, and Pakistan has to. I think if they want to come back into the series, they should be bowling them out before 350. And the good thing about Pakistani bowling lineup is that, I mean, I have to highlight this because there's a big difference between what Pakistani bowlers have to offer compared to what Australian pacers are. I mean, Pakistani bowlers, considering Amir Jamal, Hassan Ali, they tend to seam. They're basically seamers. However, on the other hand, Australian pacers, they like hitting the deck hard. And the good thing about Pakistani bowlers today was, I was really happy to see that they were actually, checking the lengths, and they were actually experimenting something. Yes, there have been some patches during the day that Pakistani bowlers couldn't keep the line, and they were wavered off. They were off the line, but not to forget that they were bowling some really good deliveries between the patches as well. And that is this confidence. If they carry that forward, I think Pakistan will be able to restrict Australia under 350.
Well, Taha, it's an interesting phase of play now tomorrow, because what's pinching me is that Marnus Labuschagne is still there, and I think he's due for a big score. It's been a while now, but like I said, he still has the luxury of Travis Head with him, who is a phenomenal player for Australia, and then you've got Mitchell Marsh to come, Alex Carey, and then of course Pat Cummins, Mitchell Starc. So it's still a pretty long batting lineup that Pakistan has to penetrate, and has to do it as early as possible, not leak runs down the order as we've done frequently in the past.
Yes, I believe, Amit, if you listen to some of the ex-cricketers who have played a lot of cricket in Australia, if you have that courage to beat the Australian team in Australia in a test match, you need to restrict them under 300 in the first innings of the match, because that has been the case. As you have mentioned, there's a long batting lineup to follow for Australia. So as I mentioned in the earlier phase as well, that Pakistan would not have desired 187 for 3. As Usman Bhai had said, that Pakistan in these conditions could have grabbed onto more opportunities and already should have gotten into the tail of the Australian batting lineup. So starting day 2 tomorrow, Pakistan should look to restrict Australia under 300. And how could Pakistan execute that? I very well agree with your argument that if Pakistan was bowling fuller today, the Australian batters would have been able to negotiate that length with the kind of pace that Pakistani seamers had to offer. That has been the case with Pakistani seamers in this tour. You see, in the earlier tours that Pakistan had been doing to Australia, as Waqar Younis had mentioned, the people were there to see the Pakistani pacers bowling fast in the Australian conditions. That hasn't been the case in this tour. Pakistani bowlers are bowling between 130 to 140. And previously, our pacers in the Australian conditions were bowling above 145. People like Waqar Younis and Shoaib Akhtar, even Mohammad Amir as well, they were bowling above 140 clicks. And that should be the strategy. That I know overnight you can't introduce that kind of pace into a test match, but at least Pakistan should try to bowl fast on fuller lengths in the overcast conditions to produce such kind of chances. Because you see the kind of batting performances that Pakistan has been giving in test cricket, more of those good performances have been coming in the Asian conditions. So if you need to give your batting lineup an outside chance to win this test match, then you need to restrict the Australian team under 300 so that our batsmen could manage that length.
But Taha, don't you think that this is a genuine case now in Pakistan that we are short of fast bowlers? I mean, let's be honest, apart from Naseem Shah, who can play test cricket, I won't include Haris into the argument because he's made it clear he's not available for test cricket right now. We are really going to struggle because the only window that we have is those 100 and 135s. and that is a very serious issue for modern day cricket.
Well, Ahmed, I very well agree with your statement, but how we can counter that kind of basically the problem that we are facing as far as the pace of our bowlers is concerned. You see, a lot of batters in the Australian lineup are left-handers. So I believe going into this test match, we could have fielded a genuine off-spinner. The option of Sajid Khan was there, and it was always good to try out the off-spinner against the left-handers. We could have given ourselves a chance to produce more wickets with the spinner if the bowling lineup wasn't bowling fast on those.
Well, I agree. I think I wouldn't even mind giving Sajid a fairly new ball against Usman Khwaja and David Warner, but probably Pakistan's insecurity with having another batter in there in the likes of Salman Ali Agha who can bowl off spin is something that really troubles us, and I think that's where the decision power really goes with the captain as well. But Usman, fairly enough, if you look at the Australian side right now, like you mentioned, that they're in a very comfortable position. And what Taha mentions is a very critical point over here, that the only way you can win, and I think you've got to give your batters something of a chance here as well, and your bowlers. The fact is that you restrict Australia as low as you can, and then you go with your batting lineup and play to your strengths.
I would like to bring to you one point about Shan Masood, as he was usually talking about Pakistan way. What was that Pakistan or that was playing aggressively? Is playing aggressively only about batting? I don't agree with that. Not having a specialist spinner in your first test as a full-fledged captain and then in the second as well, it has taken me aback a lot. Because I think if you have to take on Australia, you have to play only one way, that is playing aggressive cricket. And when you're playing aggressive cricket and you're not having a specialist spinner in both of your first two test matches, that tells a lot about the mentality of this Pakistan side. They think they're going to beat Australia by the way the Australians are playing. If that is the case, then they have Nathan Lyon in their side. You don't have one. And if you want to beat Australia, you have to restrict them. And when you want to restrict them, one of the main chunk of the bowling options is a spinner. And you don't have a full-fledged great spinner in your side. If you have someone to pick from, that is Sajid Khan, you don't have them in the team as well. And now what you're doing is, that you are playing with Salman Agha and you expect Salman Agha to run through the batting lineup of this Australian team. I don't agree with that either. So what Pakistan is doing, they want to restrict Australia, they want to win the test match, and they want to win it with the fast bowlers. That is the only thing I'm saying. And they don't trust their spinner too much. I don't mind that if Sajid Khan doesn't pick too many wickets, but at least he can keep one end tight. So that gives an opportunity to your faster bowlers. You had the seaming conditions today. For that matter, you had good fast bowlers to pick wickets, and you did not do that either. I agree, if you have to restrict Australia, it has to be close to 300, not even 350, because it gives a sniff to the Australians. And with these kind of pitches and the bowling resources they have and the spinner they have, they are going to outmuscle Pakistan even if you go with an extra batsman.
Usman, the fact then is whether we are ready to invest in that spin department or not, because of course Sajid was a last minute attempt because of the injuries that Pakistan was carrying, and that injury list is fairly long this time.
That is another problem with the Pakistan side. This is not just one problem that Pakistan side is facing. We are already talking about our faster bowlers and they're not clicking over 140. And we have gone down to those Indian kind of, with all due respect to the Indians, they're to 130, 125, 135 kind of a thing. You are short of fast bowlers, now you're short of spinners as well. And you don't have great batsmen either. Is that the case? I don't agree. When a lot of people, a lot of former cricketers, not just Pakistanis, even the foreigners are talking about the talent in Pakistan, that means your hunting has a problem. You are not able to pick out stars. And when you're not able to pick out stars and you are having controversy every second match or every second test match, that is going to give you a problem. Sajid Khan was picked up. How many test matches did you give it to him? And now suddenly he's a last minute substitute for a spinner who has been injured even before playing a single test match. And now the second spinner was again injured. Now you're having Sajid Khan who is fit, but he cannot play. He cannot feature in the playing 11. So what is the planning going on in the management? I am very confused. Suddenly you have a crop of players or the former players who have become the part of the management. They don't have any experience before managing even a franchise cricket team. So how did you expect them to manage a Pakistan cricket team touring Australia?
Well, certainly, at one point I do believe in the words of Michael Vaughan. He said it in the morning that it seems like there is something with Australia and injuries. The whole English team got it as well, and now Pakistan. I mean, out of all the injuries that we've had, Khurram Shahzad getting a hairline fracture in his ribs. Then we had Abrar Ahmed injured. Then, of course, we move on and we discuss the case of Numan Ali. Poor chap had a bruised finger. When he recovered from that, he got appendicitis. So, I mean, nothing is working in Pakistan's way. But Saad, I think clearly right now, it's a moment that we need to really stress upon, that if we are going to work on a future course of action, we need to identify, or even if we're not able to identify, bring up raw talent and then polish them, especially in that spin department, because Pakistan clearly does not have resources there.
Well, I think it's high time now, and Usman Bhai has highlighted some really good points. I have to say that. And for 1 minute, let's just compare our think tank with Australia. I mean, this is more or less the same team that played in Rawalpindi. And just look at them. I think only David Warner is such player who has never played domestic cricket before coming into the test squad. Just look at their thinking, and here we're just picking out people. The problem that we're not able to hunt people down is because we're not giving priority to the domestic structure. And that is the main problem why we're not producing stars. There should be a way, there should be a system where players have to come and then prove themselves and then be included into the squad. And even then, when they're included into the squad, they should be given more chances. And one more thing, the aggression that Usman Bhai is highlighting about is that let's just compare the first test match with the second one that is being played right now. When was the last time Australia played 66 overs with the economy of 2.83? I mean, that is big. That is some aggression that we're actually seeing. That if we draw a comparative statement with the first test match. So this aggression is absolutely needed, and if you have to play, if you have to win, or I mean, even if you have to give tough time to Australia, in Australia, you have to play aggressive cricket.
But Saad, our batters tend to misread the situation. When we talk about that run rate, which should not at all be 2.7, which Pakistan revolves around, when we talk about increasing that, when we talk about having an aggressive mindset, automatically our batters tend to throw their wickets away. So I think we're unable to find the balance there as well. Who's going to step up and say that this is the right way and the right format that where you express yourself?
Absolutely, and then evaluating the innings. I mean, you don't really have to go too aggressive at times. You don't really have to be too cautious at times. This is the problem where our management and obviously even the players, they have to highlight, they have to evaluate, they have to reconsider all these things, that when and where exactly they have to go for the kill, and when exactly they have to pressurize the batsman, be dominant in their stance. This is something that we're really lacking, and we're throwing away wickets. That is the reason why we're not able to give competition to our opponents. I mean, yes, bowling has always been supporting us, but then again, where is batting? That is some part, that is one department that we have been lacking consistently.
Taha, I mean, we've recognized all departments now, fast bowling, spin and batting, so the only thing left was fielding, but Abdullah Shafiq stepped that up as well. So the fact is that it is all departments right now, but let's just particularly focus on the one at hand, which is the spin bowling department for Pakistan. Now, we are short of spinners, and I think it's about time where we start. If we are able to identify talent, then we probably put them into a process where we can extract what we want for international cricket.
Yes, absolutely. I believe that I'm all for picking the performers of the domestic cricket into the squad when you're touring Australia and you need a big squad. But you see, Ahmed, it is good that Sarfraz Ahmed was picked on the basis of his performance in the Quaid-e-Azam Trophy and his consistency in playing the longer format, playing the red ball. If you listen to the presser of the Pakistani captain Shan Masood, he mentioned that as you can see in our squad, we have picked players on the basis of their stats in the domestic cricket. It is a fine selection. I agree with that. But once you are touring Australia and you are mentioning that you have made a tactful decision of picking Rizwan over Sarfraz in the second test match, then where was this strategy in the first test match? Because as you moved from Perth to Melbourne, you have moved to an easier condition. But once you were playing in Perth, you were playing on a surface which had bounce on offer, which was one of the most difficult pitches in Australia. So you knew that what is the skill set of both the wicketkeeper batsmen. So Rizwan is more aggressive and more. He's executed his strategy to a better extent while playing the faster bowlers. So you needed that in Perth. He plays the short ball, the cut shots really well. He should have been there in the Pakistani lineup as far as the Perth conditions.
So it's a confused selection.
Yes, it's a confused selection. If you had to make a tactical decision, you should have done that from the word go, from the first test match. You picked Sarfraz, and on the basis of his performance in one test match, you replaced him with Rizwan. So once you say that we have made a tactical decision, it should be reflected in your strategy as well. Then you are talking about the spinners. Is Nawaz the right replacement for Noman Ali? Has he played enough domestic cricket in the red ball? I don't understand his selection. Maybe Usman
desperate selection.
Yes.
But mind you, Taha is a brilliant off spinner himself, so he's got the ability to control things over there as well. But Usman Nawaz as a replacement, obviously desperate move. So Pakistan, they had to get at least a squad together. But obviously injuries is something that we couldn't control. But now because we are stuck in this delusion of having enough resources, and I mean for the past 2-3 years all I've heard is that Pakistan's got a good bench strength. And I mean Asia Cup, World Cup and this test series, immediately all that talk collapses.
I thought this was very, very unfortunate, to be very fair. If you're going to bring back Muhammad Nawaz once again, why are the other players, the youngsters, playing domestic cricket for that matter? Is there no one who's performing well? Okay, he may not be performing better than Muhammad Nawaz, but isn't there any player who's performing well? Because a player who comes from international cricket into domestic, he is bound to do well, because the standard of cricket is certainly lower in first class as compared to the international cricket. But once you talk about so much that if certain player has to be dropped, and once he's dropped, it is only after a week that he has been selected for the same format or a different or even a better format. We had a lot of talk about Muhammad Nawaz, why he's being picked for a one day. He's only good for a T20. He's a good defensive bowler. Then what is he doing in the test match side? And that shows a lot of desperation. And you don't want to test a new player over there where there are chances, there are gaps to be filled. But you want to test new bowlers or new batsmen to make their debuts in Australia. I just don't understand. Muhammad Nawaz has the experience, but what is he going to bring to this Pakistan side? He's not an attacking bowler. If he's not an attacking bowler, how is he going to pick up wickets of the Australians in Australia with these kind of Australian pitches where you have to attack by all means? A defensive bowler is not going to do any wonders for Pakistan side. And Muhammad Nawaz, for me, it's simply he's going on a tour of Australia to enjoy his holidays post World Cup, because I don't expect even one bit that he's going to get picked. I agree, he's only there to complete the squad of 15 players, that's it. It would have been far better to pick up a youngster. Even if he wouldn't have featured in this playing 11, he would have got a lot more experience being around these experienced players and being on Australian tour. But that is not the case. I just don't understand how they are making debuts for the players and how they are picking up so-called experienced players on this Australian tour. It is bound to get doomed if that is the policy going forward for Pakistan side. Mind you, there is PSL and a small matter of T20 World Cup coming up. Forget about this Australian tour.
Well, I think Sajid took some connecting flights, Nawaz took some connecting flights, all reached Australia and all in vain, because obviously in another 10-15 days then they're supposed to travel to New Zealand. So you never know what's going on. But Usman, what would you like to say about Hassan Ali and Amir Jamal? I think two of the contenders we can say that Pakistan cricket might be enjoying right now.
Yeah, I think it's a welcome comeback for Hassan Ali. I think he's done pretty well since he's been back to the team. That is what we talk about in our programs as well. If a player gets dropped, he shouldn't be losing out. He has to carry forward with his fitness and his match fitness, more importantly, that he can have every chance of getting back into the side. More importantly, thinking that he has to be match ready whenever he's being called upon. That is the best he can do for himself. And congratulations to Hassan Ali. I think since the day he has come back, there was a lot of talk about him since the World Cup. I think he did pretty okay in the World Cup, and he has started pretty well in this test match as well, picking up a wicket with just an economy of 2, keeping things very tight, and getting the prized wicket of Usman Khwaja was a good omen. Talking about Amir Jamal, I think he has been a big surprise for all of us. He's a bowling all-rounder, but he's bowling like a good fast bowler in test cricket. He doesn't have an express pace of 150, that is true, but he's bowling his heart out, and showing fighting spirit can actually not only lift your team but also send shivers in the hearts of the opposition as well. I think even Australians would give a lot of respect to this bowler. He has done well in the first test, he's doing pretty okay in the second as well. I think he's there to show that the first test performance was not just a fluke, and he's here to stay for Pakistan test cricket.
Well, certainly, I think that is one positive moment that we can take. And I think, Saad, let's discuss these two cases right now. Amir Jamal is a fantastic find for Pakistan, and Hassan Ali's case is probably the best case study of a guy going back to domestic cricket, working out on himself, working out the mistakes, and then coming back even stronger and even more skillful than before.
Well, absolutely, and Hassan Ali has proved that he belongs there. He belongs in the international cricket, and the fact that the way he's using the crease, and he's been able to move the ball consistently, and he's been challenging the batsman as well. He's been he's trying to he's bowling his heart out as well. But honestly speaking, Hassan Ali is trying his level best. He's doing well. And the fact that he is, challenging the batsman, that is a good sign for Pakistani bowling lineup. And also, I have to highlight Mir Hamza here, and Mir Hamza has been phenomenal. I mean, just look at him coming in. He's a youngster, and the way he's hitting the hard, he's hitting the deck hard, and he's not too afraid to bowl short. He's not too afraid to challenge the batsman and to experiment in his first test, and that is just amazing. That is good to see, and this is the spirit that's we're talking about. This is the spirit that was missing in the Pakistani bowling lineup, and this is what will encourage other players to lift themselves up and perform for Pakistan.
Absolutely. Taha, you agree? Because like I said, Hassan Ali is a case study to follow, and Amir Jamal is certainly a young individual who is giving all he has in his tank to the cause of Test cricket right now.
Yes, if you basically listen to the struggle of Amir Jamal, how he had improved his cricket and how he has basically went through this process of trusting the domestic cricket, trusting the kind of effort he did in England to improve his skills, and also Hassan Ali. I believe that he performed really well in the domestic structure with the red ball in both departments, in bowling as well as he improved his batting as well. I agree with Usman Bhai that he gave a decent performance in the World Cup. Unfortunately, in the latter stages of the World Cup, he was replaced with Wasim Jr., who was equally good and a bit more in the pace as well. But if you have selected Hassan Ali in the red ball, then he should have been there in the first match as well, because he's an experienced bowler. So once again, I see the selection committee
there was no point of playing Fahim and Amir together. You could have gotten in Hassan Ali instead of Fahim Ashraf.
Yes, two all-rounders, two fast bowling all-rounders in the first test match, that against Australia. I don't understand the selection. If you once again, the selection committee is doing making good decisions partially by selecting Amir Jamal and Khurram Shehzad, but at the same time they disappoint us by making confused selections of both fast bowling all-rounders within the same match. So yes, Hassan Ali is a very good inclusion, and we were talking about as Usman Bhai mentioned, the role of Mohammad Nawaz. Where was Yasir Shah? Why wasn't he considered for the selection? I believe he is fit. He has played the T20 national T20 tournament recently, and he has a lot of experience.
I think that there are some names that Pakistan cricket have probably considered that they're not going to consider. So I can put it like that. So I think, but like I said, even if that's the case, the fans and the players deserve clarity. You got to make it absolute sure. I even don't buy the argument of saying that we've announced our T20 squad for New Zealand, but Ahmed Shehzad is performing really well. He will be part of the camp. What does that mean, being part of the camp? I mean, make it clear. So it is still confusing. As Taha said, that it's a confused lot over there, and it is certainly very difficult to point out what they're thinking as well. But Shan Masood now as a skipper, he's just into his second test match, but he's got the experience needed. He's also captained a county side in the UK as well. So, definitely he knows his way around things. But what should be the case over here? Should it be then Shan realizing that if I want to improve my resources, I need to step up my authority to the cricket board and have a look, sit down with the selectors, keep an eye on domestic cricket and demand for players, something that previous Pakistani captains used to do?
I think that is the only way forward, not just in Pakistan, but in Asia in general. See, we don't have a culture of like Australia or England where the boards are too strong. And there is a lot of merit going on in the country. And in the country means the board situation. I'm talking about the domestic and international cricket in general. So the problem with Shan Masood is that there is a lot of controversy regarding his captaincy selection. And it seems that he has not been selected on merit. That is, I'm talking about things in general. So if someone has this pressure on his shoulders, how is he going to get the 30 in the dressing room, let alone talking about the board? And he has to get his resources so he can execute his plans outrightly on the field. I think a captain in cricket is the most important captain in any sports you take altogether. So he's the one who is having the reins, and he has to run the show on the field. So he has to get his resources. A lot of talk was there about Babar Azam when he was the captain, that he was a very strong captain. You have to be very strong because you have to get the resources, and you exactly know what you're going to get out of these players. But once your selection committee is so confused, a captain will be one of those who is getting confused too, and he will not be sure what he's going to get out of a certain player who's on the field. And that is a similar thing which we saw in the first test match as well, having Amir Jamal and Fahim Ashraf in the playing 11 in Perth when it was a paradise for the faster bowlers, and you don't have your key fast bowlers in the side. Like, you did not execute Amir Hamza in that play. You did not have Hassan Ali in there. You brought out your defensive, the most defensive strategy on a pitch which had to be all about aggression. Now in Melbourne, you're getting your things right, and you just have one more test to play, and you were leading the test championship table. That shows a lot about the confusion that is going on in the team management and the selection committee, and that may all come down to inexperience.
Well, I believe that, and I think that certainly the case is that everybody right now needs a boost of adrenaline to just identify the roles that have to be defined. Otherwise, it's going to go all haywire. And Saad, the thing about Pakistan cricket is that Shan Masood is going to be scrutinized even if he's winning matches for Pakistan, but if he's not performing himself. So I think that's a double-edged sword that he's got to worry about.
Absolutely, and I think a lot of fingers would be, would be pointed at him if he doesn't do so. I mean, I just want to, discuss this all over again, because a month ago we were discussing the same thing. Because if you keep on changing the management, if you keep on changing the, the decision makers of your board and even your team, this is going to happen. This confusion in the selection, this performance in the team, this is going to, get influenced.
Absolutely. Uncertainty, I think, is the case as well. But Saad, thank you very much for joining us on the show. It was great having you. Taha Mohyuddin Khan, thank you. And Malik Usman, thank you to you as well. The case is that pretty even Stevens, but Australia still have the upper hand with a couple of wickets. There's 7 wickets to be general, that they've got still in their bank, and it's going to be a very ruthless Australia. But that wraps it up from me and the entire team. It's goodbye for now.